What if the very thing you use to protect yourself is the reason you feel stuck? Most people don't realize they're defending themselves at all. The mind is subtle when it hides pain. It doesn't scream, it rationalizes. And this defense feels intelligent, reasonable, even mature. That's why almost everyone falls for it. This mental defense doesn't look like fear. It looks like logic. It sounds like common sense. It feels like being realistic. But therapists recognize it instantly, because it slowly disconnects you from yourself. The defense is called intellectualization. It's when the mind explains emotions instead of feeling them. You analyze pain rather than experience it. You turn feelings into ideas, and ideas feel safer than vulnerability. But safety comes at a cost. People who intellectualize are often praised. They sound wise. They speak calmly about chaos. They understand everything except themselves. The mind becomes a courtroom, and emotions are never allowed to testify. This defense usually forms early, when emotions weren't welcomed, when feelings were inconvenient, or when being strong was required. The mind learned, thinking keeps me safe, so feeling was shut down. At first, intellectualization helps. It prevents overwhelm. It gives distance from pain. But over time, distance becomes disconnection. Life starts to feel muted, flat, heavy, unfulfilling. You may understand why you're anxious, but the anxiety doesn't leave. You may know where the pain came from, but it stays lodged in the body, because insight without emotion doesn't heal. It only explains the wound. This is why some people consume endless psychology content, books, videos, theories, yet feel unchanged. They're collecting maps, but never entering the territory. Knowledge becomes avoidance. Intellectualization often masquerades as self-awareness, but real awareness includes discomfort. If your insight never hurts, it's probably incomplete. Healing requires contact, not commentary. Therapists notice this defense when someone speaks fluently about trauma, but without emotion. No pauses, no tremble, just facts. That smoothness is the warning sign. The mind uses intelligence as armor. If I can explain it, I don't have to feel it. If I can label it, I can control it. But control isn't resolution. This defense backfires because emotions don't disappear. They relocate into the body, into tension, into exhaustion, into numbness. People who intellectualize often feel tired for no clear reason. Their nervous system is overloaded. Suppressed emotion requires energy. Constant restraint drains the system. Rest doesn't help, because the tension is internal. Another sign is emotional delay. You understand what you felt days later, sometimes years later. The reaction comes late, because feeling was postponed. But postponed emotion always returns. Intellectualization also affects relationships. You explain instead of connect. You analyze instead of empathize. You stay composed when intimacy asks for presence. Others may feel unheard, even when you're understanding. This defense creates a subtle loneliness. People talk to you, but not with you, because emotional resonance is missing. Connection requires shared vulnerability, not perfect understanding. Ironically, the smarter the person, the more convincing this defense becomes. High intelligence makes avoidance elegant, complex, respectable, and very hard to detect. The mind convinces you that emotions are irrational, messy, unnecessary. But emotions are data. Ignored data corrupts decisions. Not feeling doesn't make you logical, it blinds you. This defense also blocks joy, because joy is emotional exposure. You can't selectively numb. When you suppress pain, you suppress pleasure too. The nervous system doesn't separate them. Many people think they're calm, but they're actually disconnected. Calm has warmth. Disconnection has emptiness. One heals, the other isolates. Therapists gently challenge this defense, not by arguing, but by slowing things down, inviting pauses, asking, "What do you feel right now?" That question bypasses intellect. The moment the defense weakens, emotion rises, sometimes tears, sometimes anger, sometimes grief. This isn't regression, it's reconnection. People often fear this moment. They think feeling will overwhelm them, but emotions move when felt. They stagnate when analyzed. The body knows how to release. The mind just interferes. Healing begins when explanation ends, when silence replaces analysis, when sensation replaces theory, when you allow emotion without commentary. That's when integration happens, not understanding embodiment, The defense backfires because life isn't meant to be solved. It's meant to be experienced. And experience requires presence. Presence requires feeling. Feeling requires courage, not intellect. Letting go of this defense doesn't mean becoming irrational. It means becoming whole. Thinking and feeling working together. Mind and body aligned. Logic informed by emotion, not protected from it. The mind was never meant to dominate the system. It's meant to assist it. Emotion signals. Thought interprets. But when thought replaces emotion, the signal is lost. This is why some people feel stuck despite insight. They've thought their way into a corner. The exit isn't another idea. It's an experience. A feeling fully allowed. A moment finally lived. Intellectualization also delays grief. Grief that isn't felt waits. It leaks into irritability, into apathy, into restlessness, into quiet despair. When this defense loosens, people often say, "I knew this already, but now I feel it." That difference changes everything. Because feeling transforms. Knowing alone doesn't. It only informs. The most resistant people are often the most articulate. Their words are walls. Their insight is insulation. But beneath it is unprocessed pain, waiting for permission, not explanation. This defense also affects self-compassion. You understand why you're hard on yourself, but you still are, because compassion is emotional warmth, not cognitive agreement. It must be felt to work. Intellectualization keeps people safe but small, contained but distant, in control but disconnected. It prevents breakdowns, but also breakthroughs. Growth requires risk. The moment you stop narrating your pain and start sensing it, the nervous system shifts, breath changes, tension releases, the body participates in healing. This is why therapy isn't advice, it's experience, a space where emotions are allowed to exist, without being solved, without being judged, without being explained away. The defense collapses slowly. At first, it feels uncomfortable, messy, unstructured, but that mess is life returning. Color re-entering the system. People often say, "I don't know what I feel." That's not ignorance. It's disconnection. Feeling is a skill, and skills return with practice, not thinking. The body always knows before the mind. Tightness, heat, heaviness. These are emotions speaking. Listening is the work, not decoding. This defense convinces you that distance equals maturity. But maturity is tolerance of feeling, not avoidance, not control. True strength is staying present, even when it's uncomfortable. As the defense fades, clarity improves. Decisions feel cleaner. Relationships deepen. Boundaries strengthen. Because emotions guide accurately. When they're allowed, you don't lose intelligence by feeling. You refine it. Emotion sharpens perception. It grounds logic in reality. Without it, thinking floats, detached from life. This is why the defense backfires long-term. It trades short-term safety for long-term disconnection, comfort for numbness, control for emptiness, protection for isolation. The mind resists giving this up because it once worked. It once saved you. But survival strategies aren't meant to be permanent. They expire, and then they limit. Healing means updating the system, letting the mind relax its grip, letting emotion speak again, not as an enemy, but as information, as guidance. You don't have to drown in feeling. You just have to allow it. Emotion moves when welcomed. It freezes when analyzed. The paradox is simple. Safety comes from contact. Many people fear losing control if they feel. But control is already costing them. Connection, vitality, depth, authenticity, life itself. The goal isn't to stop thinking. It's to stop hiding behind thinking. To let emotion have a seat at the table. Not take over. Just be acknowledged. That's balance. When this defense dissolves, people often feel relief. Not dramatic, quiet, subtle, like exhaling after years of holding breath. That's integration. The most common defense backfires because it mistakes explanation for healing. Understanding is the beginning, not the end. Transformation requires participation. Feeling completes the loop. Without it, nothing changes. And the truth most people never hear, you don't heal by figuring yourself out. You heal by letting yourself be felt, without narration, without distance. That's when the mind finally rests. When this defense loosens, people often feel disoriented, not because something is wrong, but because they're no longer hiding. The mind loses its familiar role as gatekeeper. and the body finally speaks. That shift feels strange before it feels right. Many mistake this moment for regression. They think, why am I feeling worse? But what's happening is emergence. Suppressed emotion is surfacing. Healing often feels like destabilization before it becomes grounding. This defense trains you to live in your head. But life doesn't happen there. It happens in sensation, impulse, reaction. Staying only in thought is like reading about swimming instead of entering the water. People who intellectualize often struggle with decisions. They overthink choices endlessly because without emotional input, logic has no compass. Emotion provides direction. Without it, thinking loops. This defense also blocks intuition. Intuition isn't mystical. It's pattern recognition informed by emotion. When emotion is silenced, intuition fades. Certainty disappears. You may notice this defense when someone asks, what's the right way to feel? As if emotion were a formula. But feeling isn't about correctness. It's about honesty. And honesty can't be optimized. Intellectualization keeps pain tidy, contained, presentable. But real healing is disorderly. It doesn't follow outlines. It unfolds. This defense also creates distance from anger. Anger is often the most suppressed emotion because it threatens the image of being reasonable. But anger carries boundaries. When ignored, boundaries collapse, and resentment grows quietly. Many people confuse emotional control with emotional health. But control is tension. Health is flexibility. A healthy system can feel deeply and recover naturally. A controlled system stays rigid. The defense backfires socially. Others may sense something is missing. You're present but not reachable. Insightful but not emotionally available. Connection requires risk, and this defense avoids risk. This is why some people feel unseen despite being understood. They are comprehended but not felt. Understanding is cognitive. Feeling is relational. Without feeling, intimacy stalls. Even with perfect communication, the mind believes it's protecting you from collapse. But collapse isn't the danger. Disconnection is. Emotions don't destroy you. They inform you. Ignoring them causes decay. This defense often strengthens after trauma. Trauma overwhelms feeling, so the mind takes over. But trauma heals through sensation, not explanation. The defense blocks the exit. You may notice chronic tightness in people who intellectualize. Jaw, neck, chest. The body holds what the mind avoids. Tension is unexpressed emotion, stored. This defense can create moral superiority. I'm above emotions. But that stance isolates. It distances you from humanity. Feeling connects. Detachment separates. Letting go of this defense doesn't mean drowning in chaos. It means trusting the nervous system. The body knows how to regulate. If allowed, emotion peaks, moves, resolves. Suppression is what prolongs it. People often fear that if they feel once, they'll never stop. But emotion isn't infinite. Avoidance makes it seem endless. Expression gives it shape and an ending. The defense convinces you that safety lies in distance. But distance numbs. Safety comes from presence, from staying with what arises, even briefly. That's enough. You don't dismantle this defense with force. You soften it. Notice when you explain instead of feel. Pause, breathe, return to sensation. This is why therapists slow conversations down. Speed favors intellect. Slowness invites feeling. Emotion needs space. Thinking rushes to conclusions. Healing happens in the pause. When this defense weakens, authenticity grows. Reactions feel more genuine. Boundaries clearer. Desires louder. Life regains texture. Color returns. You don't lose control by feeling. You gain alignment. Thought and emotion cooperate. Decisions feel cleaner. Relationships deepen. Energy stabilizes. The mind was never meant to be a fortress. It was meant to be a guide. Defenses turn guides into guards. Healing dismisses the guards and lets the system breathe. That's freedom. This defense backfires because it replaces living with observing. You become a commentator on your life instead of a participant. Insight without experience feels hollow. Experience restores meaning, not explanation. And the final truth most people miss. You don't become safe by understanding everything. You become safe when you stop running from feeling. That's when the mind rests, the body releases, and life finally feels real.